Welcome to Wesley Impact. I'm Keith Garner. Are you someone who is comfortable sharing your faith in public? Here at Wesley Mission, we don't shy away from the fact that we began and continue as a church. Everything we do across all the areas of our community services is guided by the love that God has shown to us. We do our best to share our faith in word and in deed. We don't force the Christian message upon people, but rather do what we do, motivated by our faith to share God's love in real and practical ways. To some, that requires us to roll up our sleeves and involves in our daily lives engaging, and to others it simply means a cup of tea and a listening ear. One person who knows all too well about sharing the Christian faith in the public square, as we say today, is Simon Smart. Simon is our guest here today from the Centre for Public Christianity, and he spends much of his time writing articles, producing radio programmes and podcasts, and producing documentaries which do just that. I'll be speaking with Simon a little later and look forward to sharing that conversation with you. We'll also be joined in the studio by Jhoanna Aguila, who will sing So Will I, supported by the Wesley Impact Band. And I'll share some thoughts on that very famous parable of the sower and how Jesus described the way God's word is scattered indiscriminately and it's received or rejected in a whole variety of different ways. But first, I'd like to share with you an area of Wesley Mission's work in Newcastle, where we provide a range of services to help people who come our way from that particular community. Through our targeted early intervention programme, we identify and work with young people between the ages of 8 and 18 and their families, helping whatever way we can. Let's take a look at Camden's story.
My name's Kelly. I'm a child youth family worker and I work for the Target Early Intervention Program. I work with young people from the ages of 8 to 18 years of age and also offer support to the families. When I first met Candom was referred to the Shine program. Candom had low self-esteem, she had tricky friendships and relationships. Through the Shine program, Candom started to build self-confidence, started to look at values, how to make good friendship choices. Candom has come a long way. She is very focused about where she wants to go with her life now. So currently we're working together to achieve her dreams.
When I was younger and people in my primary school tried to help me, I wouldn't want the help. But when I met Kelly, I realised that there's a lot of nice people out there that want to help kids and that it's okay to receive help. Kelly has helped me a lot at school with things like my education and stuff like that. We're trying to get funding for me to get a laptop and tutors so I can do my assignments. When I met Kelly and learned a lot about what she does, it actually inspired me to want to become a youth worker. So I'm starting my TAFE course sometime this year to start studying my community service degree. I wish that I met Kelly when I was younger though, because that would have changed a lot.
When Wally started the program, he was anxious, he didn't know anybody, very nervous about starting in a new school, a new area. Later on, Wally and I started working recently together, looking around Wally's education. Wally was having some issues with his schoolwork, not being able to get assessments done on time, and his whole perception has opened up.
Before I met Kelly, I was already going through stuff because I came up from Wollongong. I got in trouble in Wollongong and I had to move up here. I got kicked out of home. I was just in a bad spot, and then we did these groups, Strength and Chill. And through that, she taught us like lessons of well-being, and I just made new friends in that. That was the biggest problem. I didn't have friends, I didn't know anyone. I got heaps of friends now. I would have never thought that I'd be where I am today. Like 3 years ago, I would have never thought I'd be here. I never knew what I wanted to do. up until I met Kelly. I want to help change other kids' lives, not so they're not going down the path I was going down, because it doesn't end well. Just thank you for everything you have done for me from the bottom of my heart.
I've really enjoyed working with Camden and Wiley and watched them grow. And I'm really excited to see where life takes them. When I work with their families and work with young people and they achieve their dreams and their goals, it's such a really good feel-good moment. It's like being Santa, all year round. Yeah.
If you would like to learn more about Wesley Mission, visit wesleymission.org.au. You can find help in our community services, connect with our church and congregations, discover a volunteer role that suits you, stay up to date on the latest news and information, donate to support our work, and help make a positive difference in your community. You can also connect with us on social media and subscribe to receive the latest news and information about Wesley Mission directly into your inbox. Visit wesleymission.org.au.
So contact us if we can be of help to you or a loved one in any way. Our contact details are on the screen now, and I always look forward to hearing from you. My guest today, as I've mentioned already, is someone who knows the importance of sharing the Christian faith in public very well. Simon Smart is the director of the Centre for Public Christianity and regularly appears in newspapers, radio and television. He's also hosted a documentary series. And I'm pleased to say that Simon's with us in the studio today. Simon, it's good to talk to you.
Great to talk
Just
to
tell
you,
us
Pete.
what it is. What is the Centre for Public Christianity? I always think we should get beyond the titles. What is it?
Yes, it's a media company, and its aim is to promote the public's understanding of the Christian faith. So we're trying to address really a secular audience with a sense that there's an awful lot of misunderstanding about what's core to Christianity and why that might matter today.
So whenever anybody starts something with a title, I want to say, well, what's wrong before? What is it that people have got in their minds about the Christian faith that you want to address?
Well, plenty of things. I mean, it's a very... people who are Christians sometimes forget how foreign Christian faith is to people today. I mean, 2/3 of people say that they don't have a close friend who's a Christian. And so you've got a generation of people who haven't been brought up on the Bible stories, who haven't got this sort of frame of reference for to come to understand Christianity. So all they have is sort of vague sense of negative stories in the press about the church perhaps, things that have gone wrong, and a kind of sense that really if you're looking for the full life, you'd go somewhere other than that. And this is a real perception I would want to challenge.
And how important is it to share the Christian faith in the public space? I remember Bishop Gavin Reid talking about the difference between outreach and in drag. And so much of what we do is often saying, come to us on our terms, in our language, in our place. Why go into the public space?
I think it's absolutely vital that Christians don't assume that place. I think it's important to not kind of presume upon people, but to go to try to be good guests in sort of other people's houses, if you like, to be part of the public space. I think there's a real poverty. We're impoverished when people of faith, not only Christian actually, but other faiths too, aren't present in those public spaces to be engaging in good conversations about it. And so, I think it's essential because otherwise people are going to have terrible misunderstandings. They're not going to know people. They're not going to have that faith perspective. And I, of course, I share this with you, think that is a really important perspective on contemporary life. I think there are lots of signs that this sort of spiritual health of people is something that we're not doing so well with.
Simon, how do you go about it then?
We do it in, we're trying to, a bunch of ways. So we go into mainstream media, as you mentioned, writing for news outlets and newspapers, radio, television. We have a massive public library of all our content, which is all addressed to the secular person. We do public events and public speaking, and we produce we publish books and produce documentaries. So that's our sort of 4 areas that we tackle it on.
And does that actually make connection with people? You've got evidence that works?
Oh, for sure. Lots of people say, you're the people we can share on Facebook, you know, because I know it's from my, you know, sceptical auntie or sister or daughter. You know, these are the sorts of people who say to us, you know, we've got friends who want to engage with them, and you're helping us to do that well. I think they're conscious of the fact that we're sensitive to the tone of voice we use. We're trying to kind of address people respectfully, generously, and be in real relationships with people. I mean, that shouldn't surprise us, though.
So you're not crowded with musts and shall and will, you know, and all that kind of language?
Well, I hope not. I mean, you can check it out, Keith, but no, absolutely not. I mean, we sometimes say, let's be good guests. You know, let's be good guests in someone else's house.
So what are some of the issues that regularly emerge?
Well, see, the things that regularly emerge are often not the things we want to talk about, actually, because I often think of it as trying to address something that's a little bit more foundational than that. So what are people's worldview? What's their worldview, and what are ways Christianity can speak into that? You know, what does it mean to be a human being, for instance? I don't think our culture is doing well in answering that. What's the nature of this universe? Is it a universe built on chaos and by an accident, or is it built on love? I mean, these are profoundly important questions to address, and I like to sort of tackle it at that level. Of course, you have to address sort of presenting issues too, and we do that, but I'm trying to get sort of people to have deeper, more meaningful conversations.
And you're empowering and I hope encouraging Christians to get the language right.
Well, I hope so. I mean, I think we've made mistakes, and sometimes we often do in this way, but I hope we're kind of modelling a nice posture towards people who don't share the belief, and sort of being respectful about that too.
Yeah. I mean, Jesus spent most of his time with the people that you're talking about, didn't he? He didn't spend as much time in the synagogue or the church as we want to.
And you got the sense that he loved people like that, right? And so I feel like that's how Christians ought to be in real relationships, be in the community, in their local clubs, and hopefully adding value to that, and being in people's lives in a way that any kind of engagement with faith becomes really natural then.
Simon, we could talk a lot longer, but I do want you to hang around for a few minutes. I'd like to throw one to you, as it were, at the end of the programme. So let's now welcome Jhoanna Aguila, who'll sing So Will I.
The start, before the beginning of time, with no point of reference, you spoke to the dark and fleshed out the wonder of light. And as you speak, 100 billion galaxies are born. In the vapor of your breath, the planets form. If the stars were made to worship, so will I can see your heart in everything you made. Every burning star, a signal fire of grace. If creation sings your praises, so will I.
Experience the Galilee and the towns and cities where Jesus was raised and called his home. Capernaum, Nazareth, Tabgha, Magdala, Caesarea Philippi, Bethsaida, Tiberias, and of course the Sea of Galilee all feature in this 6-part series as Keith Garner explains the first century context of biblical events.
Jesus was born during a time of change in the political and economic leadership of this region. Fishermen around a lakeside was really one of the big businesses. Why Jesus? Why didn't people ignore him? Why did they take him seriously? And what are the questions we should be asking today if we're going to take Jesus seriously?
The Man of Galilee is available now and comes with a study guide for leaders, small groups and individuals. For more, visit wesleymission.org.au.
Now, Matthew 13 is a whole chapter of parables and begins with one of perhaps the best known of Jesus' parables. Up to this point, Jesus has used singular sayings or elements of a story. Now they're fully developed and with an invitation to understand. So, Matthew 13, 1 through to 9. That same day, Jesus went out of the house and sat by the lake. Such large crowds gathered around him that he got up into a boat and sat in it, while all the people stood on the shore. Then he told them many things in parables. He said, a farmer went out to sow his seed. As he was scattering the seed, some fell along the path, and the birds came, ate it up. Some fell on rocky places, where it didn't have much soil. It sprang up quickly because the soil was shallow. But when the sun came up, the plants were scorched and they withered because they had no root. Other seed fell among thorns, which grew up and choked the plants. Still other seed fell on good soil, and then it produced a crop, 160 or 30 times what was sown. Whoever has ears, let them hear. It's a well-known parable, isn't it, of the sower? Told by Jesus to encourage his hearers to receive his word, his values, his purpose, what he's about. Always faced with the mystery of why some respond and others don't. Does God choose some to open their hearts to him and lives to him and others not? I don't think that's what it's about at all. I think it's much more profound than that. I want to suggest it's often wrongly titled. It shouldn't be the parable of the sower. It should be the parable of the soils. His teaching by the lakeside, which happens in verse 1, we read it there, don't we? That same day, went out of the house, sat by the lake. It was a suitable place to teach large crowds. It doesn't say he went to a religious place and everybody flocked after him. He went to where people were and spoke in the terms that people understand. I can imagine the scene. The fields were long and thin. Seed was scattered by hand. This is a very practical story and one that would be easy for folks to understand. You could see, if you've been to Lake Galilee ever, let me describe for you. Often the lake is here and you look up at the fields and the hills round about. And there's no doubt that as he told the story, people listening would be able to identify with the fields around. The casting of the seed was indiscriminate. It wasn't that whoever was casting the seed chose special places. This is going to be a good place for the seed. It was indiscriminate. That's the way that the sowing went on. Some were rock, which was unidentified. Ploughing took place after the sowing. Now that's very different than it is in most places in the world today. Most people are working in farms, would plough the fields and then put in the things that they wanted to grow. The exact opposite is true here. The seed was cast everywhere, and then eventually it was dug in, if you like, and into the ground. And some went into much better places than others. You can't see the rock. You know what it's like whenever you go somewhere and you try to, have you ever done your garden? You tried to dig in the garden, then you didn't realize it was so hard underneath it. It looks so good on the top. It's not what's on the top that matters. It's what's underneath that matters. And so much of what we do when we try to share the good news of Jesus Christ and we try to share the things that we believe that are of paramount importance, we need to understand it's not just where we throw it. It is the receptivity of that soil to the word that God speaks. And we need to be good receptive soil. if we're going to be useful to him. I wonder if so often we are very, very different. Are we a bit like those that were strangling, if you like, the seed from growth? We need to be a receptive people, receptive to God's word, receptive to God's truth. And we live in a world where we know that we are all the time casting seed, not only purposely, but by the way we live. And people receive that message from us, whether it is received well, whether it is strangled, or whether it's on that rocky soil and doesn't really take root. What kind of soil are we feeding into? What sign of soil are we creating and making in the world around us so that people can hear the word of God? We read later on in the passage something about the receptivity. Some was better than others, of course. And that's how it is so often. As we've talked a little earlier, we have a mission to be engaged in our community, where people are, speaking the language that people speak, into the hearts of people's lives, so that they can respond in their way to what it is. We don't decide how people respond. It is for them to do that. And that's where God is so much at work, not so much in what we do, but in what's happening in the world around us. And these are important times. We've been through a whole host of things with viruses and fires and floods, through so many things that raise all kinds of questions in our society and in our world. We need to be a community ready to not only declare the truth, cast the seed, but be ready to encourage the right kind of soil if we're going to be effective, so that the seed of God's word is received.
If you would like to contact Keith and find out more about today's program, write to us at Wesley Mission, Post Office Box A 5555, Sydney South 1235, or you can send us an email to impacttv@wesleymission.org.au. On our website, you can catch up on past episodes of Wesley Impact, find out more about our work, read online magazines and articles, and connect with us on social media. You can also connect through Keith's blog and stay up to date on all the latest news and information from Wesley Mission, wesleymission.org.au.
So if you've got any questions about the Christian faith, don't be afraid to be in touch. We always enjoy receiving contact and answering questions sometimes on the show. The contact details on the website are on the screen now. And you can stay in touch with all the latest information from Wesley Mission on our website. My guest today has been Simon Smart from the Centre for Public Christianity. Before we finish up, I'd like to throw to Simon a question. If someone's listening to our conversation today and is keen in their heart to be involved in sharing their faith in public, but they're a bit concerned about how they should go about it, what would you say to them?
Well, I'd say a couple of things. One would be do it sensitively and carefully, remembering how strange faith is for so many people today. I mean, we're the weirdos now, Keith. And we've got to remember that.
Yeah.
I think there's also, sometimes people have reasonable reasons to be a bit cautious about faith. Sometimes the personal experience hasn't been positive, and I think a sensitivity to that is important too. But then I'd say, look, we have great good news to share with people.
Yes.
I think our society is struggling to find satisfying answers to the deepest of life's questions. And so, your viewers have things to offer there. We can offer something that speaks right into the longings of the human heart that haven't changed. Things like we long for justice, we long for meaning, for my life to mean something, for hope despite some of the struggles that we have. And I think we've got to remember that. We've got a huge thing to offer people, to invite them to consider a vision of the world that's incredibly positive.
And that's some of the good soil, isn't it, if we're prepared to find it.
Absolutely.
Thank you for sharing with us today, Simon, and may God continue to bless the work that you do for the Centre and for its work in Australia. Thank you for being part of the programme. I look forward to sharing with you at the same time again next week when we bring a special series of episodes looking at some more memorable conversations that we've shared together. Same time next week. God bless you.
Wesley Mission walks alongside people of all ages struggling with homelessness, addictions, mental health issues and financial stress. To find out more, visit wesleymission.org.au.